Hello, I'm Senior RKC and created the DVRT Ultimate Sandbag Core Training System, Josh Henkin, along with physical therapist Jessica Bento. We're going to look at how to build hybrid repetitions. These are movements where one movement feeds the other. This is great athletically based training because we're going to look to see how you can move from one pattern to the other in a very fluid type manner. A lot of times people think functional training is just individual movement patterns, but in reality we want to see how you can transition to one to the other. So we're going to use this with the example of the clean squat press. A very familiar exercise for probably a lot of you. We're going to show you how we do it with our ultimate sandbag very quickly. So Jessica's going to do 2 repetitions here. Now, the great thing about doing the clean squat press with the ultimate sandbag is there's a great accuracy component. We're dealing with an unstable implement. We have to get just in the right position, so we have to base some really good foundational movement patterns. Unfortunately, where people stop is they only go the load side, they only go to more reps. There's a way to layer what we call complexity into these movements. So with just complexity, we can just change plane of motion a little bit. So what Jessica's going to do now is a little bit more frontal plane work. She's going to go lateral step, clean into the fist, come down a lateral lunge, drive up into a press. So again, we're getting components of that clean squat press, now focusing on a change plane of motion. We do things in different planes of motion all the time in sport and in everyday life. We want to replicate that a lot of times in our lifting. So we're going to show you a couple of variations in just a moment. Rotation is one of the more fundamental things we do in a lot of sporting activities, again, daily life. One of the things we usually neglect when it comes to strength training. So what Jessica's going to do is a rotational clean to front squat to press. So she's going to come to one side, clean, again, accurate clean right to the fist, pivot into the press. So the footwork becomes paramount. This is all predicated upon her learning how to, doing fundamental components like hip hinging and pressing with that footwork in mind. It's coming from the ground up. You can see the accuracy component still comes into play and becomes more difficult when we get to more challenging planes of motion like the transverse plane. So the first 2 series focus on changing dominant planes of motion. Now we're going to actually do a multi-planar series focusing upon these concepts. Something as simple as walking is multi-planar. We use all 3 planes of motion. Rarely in our strength training do we do the same. So it makes sense we want to introduce these sort of concepts over time. So what Jessica's going to do, she's going to deadlift the weight up. She's going to go into a rotational lunge clean, which is having the weight coming across her body. She's going to come to a forward lunge, half kneeling, press. Great job. So we have the movement of the weight around her body, causing her having to resist the motion. Also going to a lunge and half kneeling position, challenge her both frontal and transverse planes. So it's a really great way to sort of reinvent that clean squat press. When you see what's available as far as how you can layer your movements, you'll see that the opportunity to actually create more functional movements becomes much more of a reality than just going heavier or more volume. You can change the layer complexity and get a lot more out of your training.